One of the questions that I get asked a lot is, how does a blind guy cut long straight edges on sheet goods like plywood and laminates? And I thought I'd address that here and show the evolution of how I learned to do that and how that developed over the years into the system I've used now for about 40 years, which is pretty darn accurate. You can repetitively cut is within a thousandth of an inch consistently, and we're going to show you how that's done right here in a second. Showing the different ways to cut sheet goods using a straight edge. And of course, if you're one of those talented son of a guns who can snap a line or draw a pencil line for 8 feet and follow it and do that 100 times a day without getting tired, God bless you. But that isn't my reality. So the straight edge method works. Now, here is what most people do. They get a piece of metal, or they buy a metal straight edge, or they invest, and really today at the cost of a good straight aluminum bar, you're looking at maybe $40 for a piece of aluminum like this. It's 1/4 inch thick, 3 inches wide, and 12 feet long. And I don't use it every day because, like I say, I'll be showing you how to make a more convenient, safer way to cut it using a wooden straight edge, but for half the price, by the way. And but here's what you have to do though. Here, when you're using this kind of straight edge, I want to end up with a 6-inch piece, but then I also have to factor in the distance from my blade to the edge of my saw, because it's going to ride against this edge. But then, because I want the part I'm cutting off, I lose the thickness of the blade. Now I happen to know on this saw, this blade that I have in right now is a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a 64th bigger. It's maybe not, you know, it's a hair bigger, but not enough to worry about for the accuracy I need. But this easiest way to do it is get some pieces of ordinary aluminum or steel that you can buy in a hardware store that you know the thicknesses of. Like this is 1/16, that's 1/8, this is 3/16, and you can just hold it against the edge of your blade and see, because then all you do is, and this was really easy to do, let me just show you how I set this up. First thing I did was, years ago I made blocks that compensated for the distance on the saw table under here, from here to the blade, you know, this distance here. And I painted them orange out of self-defense, because the sighted son of a guns on the job used to kept throwing them into the scrap pile, thinking they were scrap because they looked like nothing except 2 blocks of wood. So what I did was, I factored in the thickness of the blade, I factored in the distance on the saw table to the blade, and then of course I just had my ordinary combination square measuring device to measure from here to here, pushed this back, clamped it with a C-clamp, did the same on the other end. And so you got to kind of like logic this out. But once you figure out the method that works for you and you stay with it consistent, you'll be using the same method 40 years from now doing exactly perfect work. So let's just cut this out now and just show you how this works. I'm going to stop halfway and point something else out to you too that I want you to note. And there, get those out of the way. I don't want to cut my blocks. I've had them for years. Anyway, by the way, those are just pieces of 3/8 masonite siding that I found years and years ago, and I've saved them ever since, and I keep using them over and over again. Make sure that you set your saw blade. You don't want your blade coming down more than 3/16, 1/4 inch. You just want your teeth to clear the plywood. You don't need to drop your blade all the way. And by the way, if you do and you work with a too deep blade, that's when you start getting chipping in the surface. Now, people say, well, you know, hey, this is easier than climbing up on the plywood. Now, sometimes what happens is your straight edge will come up like that because there's a bow in the plywood. The danger then is your saw edge will go up under there. I bought this saw because if you notice the thickness of the table's like 5/16 of an inch thick, so it doesn't tend to, like a flat sheet metal table, want to work up under the straight edge, because you see what would happen, and that's where a lot of people go off when they're following a straight edge. Not my problem. There is my 6-inch piece, and it should be, well, let's see, we got a little square here, let's see what it looks like. There you go. Look at that. I don't know if the camera person can get that, but I am less than 1/1000th of an inch off on the 6 inches. That's close enough for carpentry, I'll tell you. So, next step is, we're going to show you the next generation of straight edges I made when I went to an all wooden one where the saw rides the straight edge. and we'll show you how to make one of those for like less than 20 bucks. We're continuing on with how to make a low-cost, highly effective, highly accurate straight edge that'll serve you for years and years and years. Right now, the one that we cut the parts for, the new one that we're showing you, is actually being glued and it was braided together, so we're waiting for it to dry before we finish sanding it and adjusting it for the individual saw that will be using that straight edge. But right now I just have to cut a piece 12 inches wide for something I need to do, and it has to be a very accurate 12 inches. So here's what we do. In this case, the part that I want is what's going to be under the straight edge, and that's a real easy thing to set up for using the blind way that I use. First of all, since it's a 12-inch piece, I happen to know that my combination square is exactly 12 inches long. So all I did was take a piece of 1x2 block, set it for 1 foot over, and lock it down with a C-clamp. I've done the same on the other end down there. So now I have my 12-inch mark. Now here is what a straight edge, when it's finished, looks like. By the way, this straight edge I made over 20 years ago. It still works perfectly. The only thing is, you got to be careful with it. You got to treat it with love. Excuse me, I got something in the way here that I didn't see. I was just proving to you I'm blind. Get them out of the way. But now, when you put this up here on your work, the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to slam your straight edge into the blocks, because you will end up moving those straight edges. I mean, you could change your dimension. So just go gently, just put the pressure against the block, and then I just take a C-clamp, secure the straight edge down, like so. Got to come up over here out of the way where the saw won't be, over here. Try to keep it as far away as possible. In this particular case, the blade isn't going down very far. When you're cutting thick material, if you put the Z-clamp up, sometimes the shaft on the C-clamp then gets in your way and interferes with your ability to clear it with your motor housing. Okay, now, what do I have? I'm going to be cutting right along here. From here over is the 12 inches I want to end up with. And it will cut right along this edge. I don't have to adjust for blade kerf or anything, because it's all set to go as is. Let me just get the other one off down here, and I will be ready to go. Right along there. And you know what? I'm going to shut the camera off right here, because I unplugged my extension cord to do something else a few minutes ago. Okay, we're back. If I was paying someone by the hour who made that rookie mistake, I'd have been all over them. Anyway, it's fun. This work is great. Anyway, since the video was off, I took the time to readjust the blade, because now we have the added thickness. We have to go ride the straight edge, which is 3/8, go through a piece of 3/8 material, and we need another 1/4 inch or so of the blade down below, but we don't want to go so deep that we cut our sawhorses. So I had to readjust the blade. And now we're going to follow this. And the trick is starting straight, making sure that you're straight against the straight edge, but you're going to ride the straight edge. Sometimes spraying them with silicone helps. This edge here is nice and smooth over the years, and of course this edge up here was sanded, so it isn't razor sharp, you know, from plywood, so you don't get splinters. But this is real easy to do, and here we go. I'm sorry, but I don't care how good you are at following a line, you can't move that fast. Anyway, and we got another foot or so to go. There we go. And there's our 12-inch piece. Now, if you'll notice, over the years, the straight edge has worn down a little bit. So I have just a little, is worn here, and I do have just a little bit of plywood hanging over there. It's less than a 64th of an inch. The other thing to notice is that if for some reason this piece of plywood here, paneling, whatever I'm cutting, needed to be tapered, let's say it had to go from 0 to a 1/4 inch less up here, that is so easy to do. You move your clamp, kick it over that 1/4 inch like that, reclamp it, whatever that distance is. So like I say, sometimes, you know, something isn't square and you're trying to work in a situation putting up paneling or whatever, and I'm going the wrong way with the clamp, that's why I'm having trouble. But here's what I just wanted to point out. If I wanted to taper that piece, I can go from 0 to a 1/4 inch. That, or I could even go from 0 to a 1/16 of an inch, or take just a 1/16 of an inch all the way up off. That is a very hard cut to do freehand and get a perfectly straight edge, but with this guide system, it's almost like having a track saw, except you built it for 20 bucks. You didn't spend $2,000 for it. That's what I wanted to show you on this. We'll be showing you some more tricks too about how to cut, because I'm going to show you some tricks using the same method for cross cutting and not just ripping. Okay, I just thought I'd want to show you a practical application. This is a straight edge that I made probably over 20 years ago, and I'm still using it. It's still in good shape. As long as you take care of it and you keep it in a dry place and you keep it, you know, so it doesn't get twisted or curved or bent. When you store it properly. And again, it's already compensated for my saw blade, 5 inches. And for the hoop house, I've got to make some more of the wall cleats that we're using in there, the gussets for tying together pieces. I was a few pieces short. So all I did was take a piece of 2x4, put it there, measured it in. Now I already know I'm going to be short by the thickness of my blade, narrow, it doesn't matter for the application I'm using it for. If it did, I would have to compensate for that. But now my saw will ride up on top of here, the table will ride here, the blade will cut here, and it doesn't matter whether this bow's up or down because my saw stays true to the straight edge, which is how you get the quality work. Here we go. Real easy to do this. We got about another foot to go. Here we go. We got a piece, so we can continue our work on the hoop house. And we got a straight edge. We got the parts cut for a brand new straight edge. I hope you found this video helpful. And if you'd like to see some of the other projects we'll be doing in the future, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, America's Blind Tradesman. And as always, this is Mike DeZinno, America's Blind Tradesman, saying stay safe, stay productive, and keep loving those tools. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.